What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. Here on this channel, everybody, we teach you essentially how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, and how to build generational wealth. So I want to introduce this a phenomenal young lady that I met actually at the FinCon conference in Atlanta, and I was absolutely blown away when I met Yaneli. It was pretty dope, actually, how we met. I was leaving an event and was about to take it back to the crib, and her and her girl stopped me and was like, "You guys, you should come with us. We're going to this networking event." So I was like, "All right, cool." And we were talking, and Yaneli, literally humble as can be, very friendly girl, and it was pretty dope. And the next morning, when I got to the convention, she was speaking in front of a stage of like 20,000, like 10,000 people, and I was blown away because, generally speaking, when you go to like a lot of these little poshy, particularly financial or engineering type events, the people that speak to you, they talk to you like they're God, and you're like this peon who is lucky to be listening to you. But seeing Yaneli rock the mic and just pretty much kill the stage, I was like, that is not at all how she presented herself like the night before. And it was just really dope, just kind of hearing your amazing journey and just kind of how you pretty much worked yourself out of corporate America and what you're doing now. So I was like, okay, I gotta try to get this young lady on the podcast. And dope thing about it was she actually interviewed me first for something that she does for the teachers. So thank you, Nelly, for coming on. And it's definitely, I'm looking forward to this podcast. I really am. I really am. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. That was so funny. I definitely do remember bumping into you on the street at FinCon. And it's one of those things where these conferences, generally people of color tend to stick together at those conferences. So, we had a little mixer after and wanted to just try to get as many people together. And funny how those situations and encounters happen and leads us to make good connections. So not even mad.
Completely, completely. And I loved it. I loved it. I mean, everything about that conference was dope. Meeting you was cool. And it's honestly given me a lot of this, different ideas I would like to wrap it through off camera about as far as like just kind of taking my personal podcast to the next level,
Yep.
taking my book to the next level, as
Yep.
well as some other things as well. You are honestly an inspiration. When I read your story, I was like, okay, to some extent, that's where I want to be at some
Yeah,
point
that's it.
down the road very soon, sooner rather than later. So yeah. So let's get
Yep.
started. Let's get started. First, I'll ask you a very complicated, challenging question that you may have some trouble answering. Who are the top three Dominican athletes of all time?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have to say Big Papi
Oh,
because
of course, of
obviously,
course.
who doesn't know Big Papi? Let me see. I
How
mean,
are you
I
in New York? How are you a New Yorker shouting out Boston Red Sox?
I
That's just
mean, it's
oh
honestly,
my.
it's about the fame. Like everybody knows Big Papi, no matter where you're from in the world. So it's not even about, whether he played for the Yankees or the Sox or whatever. But I would say Big Papi probably number one, maybe A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez probably number two. And oh man, number three, I don't know. It's hard. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I think maybe Soriano. My dad is really big into Dominican baseball. So I feel like he's a big Soriano fan. So that would be my number three, but it's probably wrong.
Got you. All right, that's cool. That's cool. I would just say if I were to answer this question, first of all, like you said, you cannot go wrong with Big Poppy. Simple as that. Pedro Martinez is another one. That
True.
guy basically I mean, he just terrified people on the mound. And I'm gonna go a little different with this one. Al Horford, a basketball player that plays for the Celtics. I picked three Boston athletes. Wow, that's crazy. But
Yeah, all three.
Al
Okay.
Horford plays for the Celtics. He actually
Okay.
is a phenomenal ball player, but I think he's been playing for 21 years in the NBA, which is insane when you think about it. So
Wow.
that's
And you
what I
know
would
what?
say.
I did not even know he was Dominican. Look at that, putting me on.
Yeah, definitely. He married a Miss Universe candidate, Amelia Vega.
Well, oh yeah, Emilia Vega. I think she's the niece of one of the most famous singers from the DR, which is Juan Luis Guerra.
Got you, got you.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful country, beautiful island, beautiful culture. So yeah.
Yes,
All right,
definitely.
Yaneli, let's get started. First off, I read your phenomenal book, Mind Your Money, and I love that book. It was just powerful and phenomenal, and
Thank
it's kind of
you.
funny because just reading, I was thinking to myself, man, there's so many different stories I have about just kind of growing up in four different capitals that are just so applicable to finance that I never thought about until I read your book. So first off, I read your book; it's powerful. But introduce yourself
Thank
to my
you.
audience. Who is
Yeah.
Yaneli Espinal?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I'm Dominican American. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a daughter of immigrants who moved to New York City, just trying their best to get a better life for their children. I'm one of nine kids, so that's a big part of the book as well. It's just the story of growing up in such a big family, and we grew up very, very low income. I was actually one of the, I would say, I guess, poorest in my class, in my incoming class. Graduated in 2011 from college, and so I actually got a scholarship that once you get admitted to, I went to Brown. Once you get into Brown University, they look at all the students, rank the lowest income students, rank them, and then the very, very lowest of the low income, they pick a select number to award a scholarship called the Sidney Frank Scholarship. and I was awarded that scholarship. And Sidney Frank, if you look him up, he's actually the creator of Grey Goose. So shout out to Grey Goose, because they paid for my college degree. And his family is incredible. I met his family, his daughter and her husband, and they run pretty much like art galleries all across the country, and they're really, really nice people. So I mean, you know, growing up very, very low income, it definitely has an effect on you, an impact on you and your worldview, and it definitely gave me thick skin. But yeah, I love being Dominican. I love being from New York. I love being from Brooklyn. I'm very proud of that, and I could not have included anything in my book if it did not connect to my roots and my upbringing and those early experiences, which is why I made them such a focus of my book. But yeah, I started my career as a teacher, and then I moved out of the classroom. I did a couple different jobs before I realized that financial literacy education was really going to be the thing that I wanted to really focus and dedicate my career to. So now I work at a nonprofit that focuses on financial literacy education. I'm down to part-time, so I do 3 days a week with that work. A little bit of legislation as well. So trying to push financial literacy laws at the state level. And then whenever I'm not doing that, I'm running my business, MissBeHelpful LLC, which is pretty much speaking, my book sales, social media, sponsorships and partnerships, collabs and things like that. So, you know, a little bit of everything.
No, I love it. I love that. I mean, that's all that is so dope, you know. All that is so dope. Let me ask you this: a poor minority girl from the essentially from the hood. When you got to Brown University, did you experience imposter syndrome at all?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the first 2 weeks, I was crying every day in my dorm room, called my mom and was like, Mommy, I need to come home. Like, I don't belong here. There's no way. Like, I'm going to be able to be here for 4 years. I can't even be here for a week or two without just like being miserable and depressed, feeling lonely, feeling like the oddball out. And, you know, I was definitely not, I wasn't a sharp kid. Like I had street smarts and I was definitely intelligent in terms of like academic performance, but there was still a lot of the world that I did not know. I was not exposed to so much of the world. I only knew the like tiny little 5 block radius around my neighborhood, maybe a couple other spots in New York City that I've been to. And, you know, I definitely had never experienced interacting with people of different, you know, wealth strata, different income levels. Like I was just, every one of my friends was also low income like me. So I had a very limited experience and limited worldview. And then going around, like you got people coming from all over the world. I remember taking classes sitting right next to Emma Watson, who plays Hermione in Harry Potter. Like this girl is in the flesh sitting right next to me in class. And so it just hit me like, you know, if I'm here next to this girl, it's for a reason. Like I worked just as hard to get here. I got a spot here just like her. Like, why do I have to feel like I didn't deserve it or I don't belong here? So I just kind of really forced myself to stay and find my way. And a big piece of that was like knowing when and how to seek help. You know, I went to the writing center a lot because my papers were getting C's. I had never gotten a C in my life. I was the teacher's pet every day, K through 12. And then freshman year of college, I got a C on a paper. So I had to go to the writing center. Like I had to swallow my pride and go and ask for help. My vocabulary needed to be leveled up, the way I spoke and my communication skills, my public speaking, like a lot of things, writing. And then, of course, I had to find other students that also had a similar experience to me so I could like connect with them and we could help each other out and like just, you know, resonate together. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can meet people from all walks of life, but if they don't really understand the struggle that you're dealing with, it's going to be really lonely. So I knew, okay, I'm going to be open to meeting people from everywhere. But then my crew, like my girls, like they were also either low income or lower middle income families. And you know, they just really helped me ground myself and recognize that I'm not alone and I'm not the only one experiencing certain struggles while I'm here. Like my girls get me.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny you said, Yaneli, because I know obviously I've experienced lots of imposter syndrome. 99% of the time I was the only guy that looked like me in most of the venues that I was in outside of like playing sports, hooping and boxing and stuff like that.
Right,
So it kind
right.
of weird being a minority. You grow up in two very distinct but very powerful dichotomies, and you gotta if you have to be very grounded about your ethnicity so you don't lose yourself. How did
Right.
you get on this? Interesting how you talking about getting around just feeling the imposter syndrome, because I know if anybody that's listening, that's generally how you have to do it.
Yeah.
More or less expose yourself to different cultures, find people that you connect with, and then
Yep.
pretty much try to learn from everybody and make sure that you don't lose who you actually are. So that's a very powerful thing, you know, it really was.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on
Yeah.
that. I think, and also just, you know, keeping in touch with my family. Like it was like you described the dichotomy. I would definitely agree. It was two different worlds. You know, like I would go home and speak differently. use different words, talk like a completely different language with completely different, even though it's technically, the same, a lot of the same things, but it felt like I was in a different world. And then when I would take that bus and head back up to Providence, it was like being transported to another completely different world. I would carry myself differently. I would speak differently. And that, I think, obviously people recognize that as code switching, which now I think people are being more critical of it, because we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to be ourselves. But at the end of the day, being at a predominantly white institution, you don't always get to be your full authentic self, because a lot of that was like, those spaces were not designed for us to thrive in those spaces. They were not designed for us. They were not designed with us in mind. So a lot of it was like, just having to pick up on some of the social cues and understand, like, dining is very different. Like when we would eat at my house, it's like everybody talking at the same time. It'd be 4 or 5 people talking at once. And I can register each of the 4 people talking at the same time. My brain I can handle it. I can talk very fast. I can talk very loud. I can process
English
a lot of
and in
information.
Spanish too, right?
In Spanglish, right? Spanish, English, Dominican Spanish, all of it at once. And then I would go to these other spaces. They would invite us to like these dinners with the donors or with the scholarship foundation, for example. And I would go to these dinners and it's like complete opposite, super quiet. One person speak at a time. The fork and the spoon got to be in a certain place, the etiquette and everything. And I'm like, wow, it just feels like you are being transported to another planet, to a different world. And so the more of these worlds that you can become familiar with and be able to move through with comfort and ease, the better off you're going to be, because every single opportunity is available to you. And there's not one door that could be closed in your face saying, oh, you don't get it here. Oh, yes, I do. And honestly, I wear it as a badge of honor now that I can talk to anybody, poor, rich, black, white, whether you from America or outside the country, whether you speak this language or that language, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. Like, I can really have a conversation with anybody. And I think that's probably the best skill that I got from college.
Absolutely. And it's funny being a military kid. I grew up literally all over the world. And as a result, I lived in Asia. I traveled to Africa, traveled to the UK, traveled all over Latin America for that matter. I was very blessed because I grew up around like West Indian people. I grew up around Latino people. I grew up around Asians. I grew up around obviously Black folks. And I went to school with a decent amount of white people as well. So I got world education, and so did my brothers. And I didn't realize how blessed I was about that until I started kind of getting out into the real world. I was like, wait a minute. Yep. I can literally mingle with everybody, yep. And I can bounce between both worlds without being called a quote unquote sellout. And I understood essentially how to pretty much mingle wherever I was at. And one of the cool things I've noticed about New Yorkers is that you guys really have an advantage about this, is that I think you all know how to do that very well. I'll give you an example. I'm a citizen of the world, but I lived in 4 different capitals. Growing up in Philly is kind of home for me. And whenever I would go to New York, among other things, I was always amazed to some extent how clean the city was and how attractive the people were, but how everybody kind of like mingled. Like that was just kind of what I would notice about NY. It was like you go to the projects, to the hood, and you see like a Russian family, a Dominican family, an African-American family, a Caribbean family, a Trinidadian family, and a Spanish family, and a Portuguese family, literally all living on the same floor. Yep. So you all grew up dating, you all grew up doing the same thing, you all grew up going dancing up bachata, merengue, and kind of kicking it. And it had a fundamental education, because I found out with New Yorkers, no matter where I'm at in the world, I always, here in Miami, doesn't matter where I'm at in the world, I roll with, generally speaking, with people from the Northeast or from the West Coast. It's like we know how to mingle with each other and just kind of have fun. And I got that vibe from you when I met you at Fang. I was like, yeah, this girl, she's comfortable around, for lack of better, she's comfortable around Black people. She's comfortable around white people. She's comfortable around everybody. And I love that. I love that. So yeah.
I definitely, I will tell you, that's one of the things that has made it really hard for me to leave New York City, because I grew up there, then I went away for 4 years of college, came right back and worked in the city all through my 20s. When it was getting to my late 20s-ish, my boyfriend and I, we've been dating for a very long time. And he and I, we had this conversation like, all right, babe, we're getting really serious. We're moving together. But he knew he didn't always want to live in New York City. He's from Jersey. Yeah. And so he's basically bordering New York City and was there a lot. And then we lived together in New York City. And he's like, I really want to like expand, go out, try other places. Let's try living in other places. And if we don't love it, we can always come back to New York City. New York City's not going anywhere. But I was so hesitant because I was like, where else are we going to go live where we're going to have the diversity that we get here in New York City? Yep. Name one city where you can get every ethnicity, every every single ethnic origin that you just mentioned, all of them, like
every kind of food, everything.
everything. And so I knew, I was like, no matter where I go, I'm going to have to stop comparing it to New York City because it's not fair. New York City's on this pedestal up here when it comes to diversity. You're not going to find that nowhere else. And so I had to just be real with myself and stop doing the comparison trap to New York City, because otherwise I'm never going to really be able to enjoy living anywhere. So, you know, we moved to Miami 4 years ago. And, you know, Miami has some little ethnic enclaves. You know, the Haitians and the Cubans have big, big enclaves out here, but it's
It
nowhere
ain't the same.
near. It's
It
nowhere
ain't the same.
near the
It ain't the same.
diversity. So I have
It ain't
had
the
to just
same.
accept that as a fact and just, you know, move forward, just knowing that I'm blessed that I've always known diversity growing up, and that everybody doesn't get that blessing. But, you know, I'm lucky to have it. And everywhere I go in the world, I take that with me.
Yeah. I remember when I would go to New York to like the party and everything, you would go to like a Latin club and it would be like dance hall, bachata, merengue, hip hop, salsa, everything. And it would
Everything.
be every ethnicity dancing there together there.
Yes.
Whereas in Miami, it's like you go, if it's like Oompa, it's gonna be Haitians, it's gonna be Dominican.
Yeah.
If it's Dominicans, it's bachata. If it's
Yes.
salsa, it's probably Cubans and
Yes.
Venezuelans. But it's not the same. You're right. I had
That's
to
right.
stop comparing everything to the Northeast as
Yeah,
well.
it's
So
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a fact.
All right, you know, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. What are the three coolest things you can say about New York before I start answering the financial questions? Three coolest
Oh,
things about growing up in NY that no one would know unless you actually grew up in the city.
all right. Well, first of all, I would say the fact that people are so close together, and even though it is a little bit of a segregated city in a lot of ways, you can walk down one street where every single person in that street is a millionaire or multimillionaire. And as soon as you turn the corner onto the next street, it's a whole row of empty apartments looking raggedy, and everybody on there is poor. I mean, it's a struggling city. So you have
Yep.
those right next to each other, touching, like sharing the same corner. And that is really what makes New York City what they call like the melting pot, because the melting pot really means like you have them all in there like a gumbo, like a sancocho, like we're all there together. And so that's the first thing is, yep, one street you can walk down and look super sketchy, just turn one block over and it's gorgeous brownstones, and you know, you look straight out of a scene from Sex and the City, right? And the second thing I would say is just the subway. Like everybody knows the subway is like the big thing in New York City, but I don't think you really understand until you experience it. Like I started taking the subway by myself when I was like 11 or 12 years old, because I had to start going to school by myself, and going with my friends on the train every day. It's such a defining part of like your lived experience. When you're taking the subway every single day, you see people from all walks of life. You see all kinds of crazy, wild interactions and scenarios. Some are safe, some are not safe.
Oh,
Some are
yes.
funny, some are not funny. Some are sad, some are annoying, frustrating, you know. And so but that experience of being able to actually just witness all that diversity and melting pot of New York City in one train car every single day over and over again, and you see that diversity and that mix, it really does, you know, it does something to you. And also it thickens your skin, because you really have to be able to navigate by yourself from a very young age, because most kids in the city, you know, when you're K-5 school, or even kindergarten through 8th grade, you're moving through your neighborhood. But then to go to high school, a lot of times you end up leaving out of your zone.
Yep.
So if you want to go to a school that's outside your neighborhood, you have to take the subway to get to either Queens or Manhattan or the Bronx or whatever. So, you know, young kids start taking the train by themselves, 13, 14 years old, and it really is character defining. And then what else? I mean, I would say the third thing is you can do anything in New York City for free. That's the crazy thing. Like they got movie nights in the park. They got salsa dancing lessons in the park. They got, you know, canoeing and kayaking in the river. They got that at Central Park. They got that at the
Free
Hudson
ice
River.
skating.
You
Free
got
ice
free ice
skating.
skating. You
Yep.
got free museum days. You got First
Yep.
Fridays at the Brooklyn Museum. You got, I mean, literally for you to be like, oh, it's so expensive to live in New York City. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
But growing up
Absolutely.
at low income is not that there was no access to things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff for free, but you just got to be able to like get out there and learn about what's available in the city. My parents did not do a good job of that. We were definitely just kept to the same like couple blocks, you know,
Sheltered.
the church and our friends and the school and our house, and that's it. But if you are raising kids in New York City, man, you can really make them like it feel like they're having a global citizen experience just in New York City, based off of the museums, based off of the, you know, even for example, I saw Hamilton with the original cast on Broadway for $10, because I used to work a couple blocks away from the theater, Richard Rogers Theater, and I would walk during my lunch break every single day when the lottery to watch Hamilton was in person only, before they even did an online lottery. And I would stand there, put my name in the hat, and wait every day. And for like a month and a half, I did that every day until in mid-January, they called my name. This was back in like 2016. And I ran up there and I got 2 tickets, $10 each, so $20. I gave one to a friend, and we ended up watching Hamilton in the front row of I mean the original cast with Lin-Manuel, like that, for $10. So I mean,
$10.
New York City can be your oyster, and there's a lot there, but you can't just be stuck at home. You can't be a homebody thinking that you're going to experience that kind of New York.
Yeah, I love New York. I used to go to I was very blessed. When I graduated from college, I started my career in Philly, and I would go to New York probably twice a month, every weekend for like twice a month for like 10 years. So I mean when I did it all in NY, and it was pretty dope because you could literally, I remember one time I went to see The Lion King, and after I saw, and that's one of the best Broadway shows out there.
Yes.
After I got on the line, after we left and we're going back home, this guy got on the subway and started singing. He sounded, and he was a homeless guy. He sounded better than the Broadway singers on Broadway. I was like, dude,
Yep.
why are you singing on? But that is New York. That is New York to a T. And Philly has a subway, but it ain't like New York's. So I mean,
right. There's no subway like New York, because I've taken the subway in a lot of places. I'll take the subway in Atlanta. I've taken the subway in San Francisco. I've taken the subway in a lot of other cities, and it just doesn't even compare to New York City. It just doesn't.
Got you. All right, let's keep it moving, Yaneli, because we can talk all day about New York,
about New York, for real.
Yeah. You were a teacher, but you transitioned from being a teacher into the nonprofit world. What was that experience like? Because a lot of my listeners will say, Chris, they want to get out of corporate and transition to something else. What was that transition like for you, and why did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with why I did it. I did a program called Teach for America. So they place you in a school and you have to commit for 2 years to teach. And then after the 2 years, you can either recommit, continue to teach, or you can go on and do whatever else you wanted to pursue. So a lot of times people would do Teach for America for 2 years before business school, before medical school, before law school, just as like a 2 year experience before you go and, like, kind of take on your actual career. And there's some criticism around that, because some people think, oh, that's messed up. If you're going to be a teacher, specialize, go hard. Don't just do it like a 2 year thing between your actual career and what you really want to do. But honestly, I don't have a problem with it, because I think the training was really, really high quality and rigorous. And within that 6 to 7 weeks over the summer of training, I think that they create a group of teachers that are better than a lot of veteran teachers who've been through the traditional way. So I personally I didn't really see an issue with it, but that's the program that I did. So in my mind, I was thinking, I'll do 2 years. If I love it, I'll continue it. But if I don't, then that gives me opportunity, an easy way to say, oh, I did my 2 year commitment. Now I'm ready to go ahead and move on to something else. But I didn't really know what that something else would be. When I was in undergrad, I was studying, I had like 3 concentrations because I couldn't pick a major. So I picked 3. So I did history of architecture, visual arts, and urban studies. And so I thought I would do something in like a museum setting where I would either do programs or like become a curator or something, because I did a lot of art growing up. But I interned at some museums and I found it to be so freaking boring. Like I was bored out of my mind, like picking up the phone, just begging people to donate money to keep the museum open. I just didn't think it was going to be like that. And I did not enjoy it. So I knew right away, scratch that. I'm not doing museum education. So I kind of had to just figure it out, what I wanted to do next. And for me, I think the how to do that is definitely leaning into the transferable skills. Like list out the top 3 or 5 number one main skills that you need to have to do your job well. And what are other career fields where those are also the top 2 or 3 skills that you need to thrive in that other career field, and make that connection. Because for me, public speaking, like when you're a teacher, every single day you have to get up in front of the harshest critics in the world, which are these kids. They will literally just roast you if you don't know what you're talking about, or if you're not confident, or if whatever, if you dress weird or silly or whatever it is, they will call you out, right? These kids are so raw and real. And so that's the toughest audience ever. It's kind of like being a stand-up comedian. Like you're going to find out real quick if you're good at it or not. And so getting in front of the kids every day, like I got confident very quickly with being able to teach, to explain things in a simple way, and just to kind of keep them engaged and hooked and interested in the lesson. Because if they check out, you're done. Like they're going to be under the table eating glue. I mean, I taught elementary school, so they're going to be under the table eating glue, and you're thinking, you're running a good show. So I really had to understand, how do you hook? How do you engage? How do you get them to stay connected with what you're doing and find it fun? And all of that is really important to do if you're going to do public speaking, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to do the conference circuit and all these kinds of jobs that I feel like naturally I've moved into that space of being a speaker. Also, obviously with the book, like people will ask me, come and talk about your book at this conference and things like that. So I knew right away, like, okay, presenting and speaking is something I'm really good at, and I've gained confidence doing it. And then also like taking complicated topics and breaking them down to some very simple points. So like something like a YouTube channel where I'm putting tutorials up, that's great. I'm using my public speaking skills and I'm breaking complex topics down into miniature little tutorials and things. So I feel like it naturally happened where my skills that I was really good at, I used in other ways. And then more opportunities came from that. So it wasn't like I was super intentional or strategic, but looking back on it, it definitely was because of those transferable skills. Like teaching, you have to be very organized. You have to manage your time very well because when the bell rings, they got to be packed up and ready to go. You can't, you can't slack and be off when you're teaching. Everything is very routine driven and you have to be on top of your game with organization. So I think those are the skills that helped me make the leap. And at first, I kept it related to education because I couldn't just go from education to like something completely different and unrelated.
Right, right.
So I did I worked at a business that does after school tutoring. So I ran the business. So I had to collect tuition payments. I had to do a marketing plan. I had to like, pay all the bills and do accounts payable. So it was basically learning the business side of operating a business, but the business happened to be education based. So it was tutoring. So I had to lesson plan for the families and the students and, teach the kids while they were at the center. So that was a really great transition out of the classroom for me because it combined education plus something new to me, which was business. And that helped me then kind of move over to the world of money.
Nah, I love it. I love it. I mean, you said a mouthful with that, Yaneli, and it's very, very powerful. It truly is. You were making 42,000 based off your book. You were making $42,000 the last year you taught as a teacher.
Yep.
I mean, I know the answer to this question, but did becoming transitioning to something else, was that primarily because of the money that you were not making as a teacher? I would say.
It was definitely top two, top three reasons. But it wasn't the number one reason. And the number one reason was definitely that I just couldn't imagine myself continuing to do that job every single day until I retire. I couldn't like picture it. And I was already like burned out and exhausted and tired. And there would be days where I just didn't want to go to work. Like, so there, I realized right away, like, okay, maybe if I was making $200,000 a year, I would have enjoyed teaching a little better because like it would have felt like I'm being compensated fairly for how hard I'm working. But because I was being paid so low, it made the flaws of the job very apparent to me. Like it became very clear to me that, okay, this is not a good arrangement. And so definitely earning a lower salary for me being in New York City, that definitely was difficult because I had a lot of debt and like I was trying to help my family out. And there was a lot of things that I was responsible for that my money just couldn't stretch that far. So yeah, I would say it was top two, top three reasons, but it wasn't the number one thing. I do think that if teachers were paid what they deserve to be paid, a fair wage for how hard they work and how long they work, I think more teachers would stay. More people would like the best teachers would actually stay in the profession of teaching rather than moving on to become administrators, principals, superintendents. The best teachers end up leaving because that's the only way they're going to make six figures. And it's just not fair. Like if you're an incredible teacher, you should be able to make six figures as a teacher. You shouldn't have to exit teaching and move up or move out in order to make that kind of money. So it's unfortunate with the way teachers are overworked and underpaid. But yeah, for me, it was just a matter of like, all right, I want to find something that I want to wake up every day excited to do and feel like I'm making a really big impact across many, many lives. Because even if I taught for 30 years and then retired, like every year I'm teaching 30, 40 kids. So 40 kids times 30 years and boom, that's the cap. That's the maximum number of kids' lives I can impact. And I knew I wanted to have a bigger impact, more at scale. So that was also another reason why I decided to exit.
Yeah, it's unique that you say that, Yaneli, because my father, U.S. Army for 21 years. When he got out of the military, he was a teacher for 20 years. And some of the stories he told me, kids fighting him and trying to fight him. My dad was a vet, so they didn't go very well for them. Him giving literally every year he taught, he gave his GI Bill to kids to help them buy like basketball shoes or football cleats or food or dinner, stuff like that. And I was like, Dad, if you didn't join the Army, I never could have been a teacher because he had a GI Bill from being a veteran that he basically, that's how he's supplanting his income. And they do not pay teachers enough. So anybody's listening, if you go into the teaching profession, you're doing God's work with that, but they don't pay you guys enough. To me, it's a crime.
Yep, I 100% agree with that.
One of the things I also found extremely dope about you, Yaneli, in your book, you talk about essentially you're making $42K a year and you had a lot of debt. Describe your debt journey as far as paying off. Because I always tell people when you pay off your credit card debt, when you pay off your student loans, it literally feels like like the chains are breaking off you. So describe your debt
Yeah.
journey, your debt freedom journey.
Oh, I definitely agree. It feels like finally you're free. Like, so in college, I knew that I had that scholarship from the Sidney Frank Scholarship Fund from the Grey Goose family. And I was like, all right, so they're paying my tuition, they're paying my dorm room fees and my 3 meals a day. So those things are covered. But there were things that were not covered with the scholarship, like my textbooks, my laptop, clothes and shoes, decorating my dorm room, lab fees. There were other things outside of those paid expenses that I had to come up with money for. So I knew that I could not call my mom and dad. They didn't have the money. Like, it was not, that's not the type of family that I'm from. So I had to figure it out on my own. And I started working immediately. Like 1 week in 7 days into freshman year, I already had a job on campus at the pizzeria. And like within a month or two, I moved up to supervisor level because I was working so hard and I was always there. And so, I worked a lot of jobs. I had like 4 or 5 different jobs throughout my time at college, like all at one time. Like I would be juggling many jobs at once. And even then, like it would not be enough money to pay for my textbooks for every class in one semester. If you take 5 or 6 classes, and each class has a couple different textbooks, couple $100 per textbook, we're talking about thousands of dollars just for books. And then I needed a laptop, and there were other things, right? So
And you want to go out on the weekends.
go out on the weekends. You're 21,
Exactly.
you're 19, 20, 21. Like, you're trying to be young, right? So, and for the first time, I was living without my mom and dad telling me, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. So I wanted to enjoy that independence. Yeah, definitely. And so basically I was like, all right, the math ain't mathin'. The money that I'm earning from these jobs is $150 a week, $150 every 2 weeks. It's not going to cut it. So I decided to get a credit card. And I honestly did not even make that decision on my own. I was like walking across campus one day and there was a tent set up. Now, back in the day, this was fully legal. They could bribe you for a credit card application. They could offer you a slice of pizza, a frisbee, a t-shirt, a pen, whatever.
Yep.
And and they would hire students on campus to
Yep.
be the face of those tables. So you can see your friends and be like, oh, what up? Come over here, get a free t-shirt, get some pizza, sign up. All you gotta do is fill out the application. So it felt like, oh, okay, cool. My friend is telling me to do this. I feel safe. This is cool. And so that was like ridiculous. I did not realize like even what I was doing, but the woman explained to me that what I could do is buy the big things that I needed, like my laptop and my textbooks, and pay it off little by little, kind of like a layaway plan. Now, I grew up on layaway. Like, my mom used to put everything on layaway, our Easter dresses and like all the things that we needed. She would always put stuff on layaway. So I was familiar with the concept of like installment payments until you pay off the thing. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. That sounds good. And so I filled out the application. 2 weeks later, I had the credit card in my mailbox on campus, and I went and I paid for my laptop with that credit card. Almost basically maxed out the card at that point because the laptop was like $1,200 and my credit card had like a $1,500 credit limit. So right away, and that right there is indicative of like how poor my decision making skills were too, because I could have went and got a Dell laptop for like $800, but I wanted a MacBook Pro for $1,200. I had to get the fancy. So to me, I was not making smart decisions. I was just being driven by what's popular and what's cool. And so I kept using the credit card to buy clothes and shoes, name brand this, name brand that, to take trips, to go out. And then I got a second credit card, then a third, then a fourth. So by the time I got to senior year in college, I had 3 credit cards that were maxed out and 1 credit card that was almost maxed out, but not quite. And I was making my minimum payments on all of those credit cards just to try to stay afloat. My credit was terrible, and I had almost $20,000 across all those 4 cards combined. So a lot of people would think, oh, you're so lucky. You graduated with no student loan debt because you got a scholarship. But they didn't know that I literally had the equivalent of like a couple of years of student loan debt just from credit card spending, which is way higher interest compared to student loans. Yep. So my situation got bad quick, and I didn't really know about credit until I went to apply for an apartment with a couple of my friends to get a 3-bedroom. We were trying to be roommates. And the landlord ran our credit and said that the other 2 girls that I was applying with, that they got approved, but my credit was too bad. So I was like, how come they have good credit and I don't? What's credit? And so then I asked him, he said, I pulled your credit report. He said, you can look at it. And so he let me see the credit report, and I saw all of the credit cards that were outstanding, that were not paid, that like high balances, like high utilization. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. So then I looked at my credit card situation and I was like, I got to pay these down. I have to like get more responsible. I started reading books about money. So the first book I ever read was a Susie Orman book, Women and Money. And then she had a plan in there about how to pay off credit card debt aggressively, which is to tackle the highest interest rate cards first and work your way down to the lowest interest rate card last. And that's what I did. I stopped spending money unnecessarily. Like I stopped getting my nails done. I stopped buying clothes and shoes, like no more buying makeup or earrings or anything. I just cut everything cold turkey, and all my extra money after my bills were paid was going straight to that highest interest rate credit card until it was paid off. Then I moved to the next one and the next one. And then I combined a bunch of them when I was at like 15,000, 10 or 15,000. I combined them into, and I got a loan to consolidate them. And then I paid all the credit cards off and just had my one monthly loan payment until that was paid off. So that was kind of my journey to get rid of all that debt and eventually finally get to a place where if I got a paycheck and I had money extra left over after my bills were paid, that was my money. Like I didn't owe it, to anybody else. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned, you got a scholarship, and my book actually, I got a full ride to go to undergrad for free. And in my book, I talk about how when I got my full ride, I would still actually apply to other scholarships. And to some people, that makes them mad, but the reason why I did it was for the same reason you just got on talking about.
Yep.
I basically studied engineering, and I knew I couldn't do engineering and have a social life and work a job. So I was like, okay, cool. I'd rather write a 5-page essay on Martin Luther King or I don't know, Thurgood Marshall and get a $500 scholarship instead of basically get a campus job. So did you ever consider like applying for extra scholarships, Yaneli, when you were in school or anything, or when you were in college?
Nope. I wish I had your book. I wish I had your guidance back then, because I did not even think. I thought, oh, I have a full ride. I'm fully covered. I'm good. Also, I think this is one of the advantages of being a child who's attending college, whose parents went to college or whose uncles and aunts went to college. I'm first generation. So my parents, they never went to college. So it's not like they could explain to me like, well, baby, when you get there, there's going to be other things that you're going to have to pay for. This is what life is going to be like. Like I didn't have that. I had no sense of what I was entering into. When I got to college, when I got to campus, I was just like a deer in the headlights. Like, wow, oh my gosh, like this is all like I get to live here. I get to be here for 4 years. I had no idea what I was about to experience. And it was like drinking from a water hose. Like it was all coming at me fast. So I definitely wish that I had more guidance in terms of like understanding that there's more to paying for college than whatever they call like the sticker price or whatever the net price to pay. Yes. And your personal expenses and how you will be able to enjoy yourself and not have to work yourself to the bone is all dependent on how much extra cash you have. So knowing what I know now, I would have definitely been applying to scholarships continuously. Every little bit helps, even if it's a couple different $200 scholarships. That's a whole 2 weeks of working at the pizzeria that I wouldn't have had to do, which allows me to study more, allows me to be more social, allows me to sleep more. A lot of things that contribute to your happiness while you're in college that I can do if I'm not working.
Absolutely, absolutely. In regards to the not working thing, one thing I found very dope about you, Yaneli, among other things, is that your book, when you were kind of explaining to me how you basically sold it and how you more or less marketed it, essentially, I'm not sure if I don't know if this is correct, but your book basically put you in an entirely different socioeconomic status. Sure. Got you. So how did you go about marketing it? Because I sell my book on Amazon as an author and everything, but when you were kind of like the passion you have, you talk about mind your money, like literally you just smile whenever you talk about that book. Yeah. How did you go about like, I guess, marketing it and selling it to the masses? Because you've done extremely well doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on social media since 2015, right? And 2015 was the first year that I created my first YouTube video and grew a following. I'm not huge in terms of like influencers or creators, definitely by no means. I'm for sure like more of a micro influencer. I feel like my YouTube following has grown very slowly over the years. There's people who've been on YouTube for 2 or 3 years and they have 1 million followers, right? I've been on there for 10 years and I have like 50,000 subscribers. So I think it has grown slowly, but I do have a loyal following that does email me a lot, does follow. Like if I post a video, they'll right away watch it, comment, reach out to me. And, a lot of times they would ask me in the comments, like, do you have a book? Like, we have a book coming out. Are you writing a book? Like, can we support you by buying a book? And I didn't never really consider, that I had a book in me because I really like talking. I really like presenting. I'm very like social in terms of talking to people, but writing is more of a chore to me. Like when I have to write a paper, I have to really, it's effort for me versus if I'm talking to you, there's no effort. Like I can talk without even having to really think what I'm saying. It comes naturally to me to speak, to talk for an extended period of time, especially for a topic I'm passionate about. Versus writing doesn't come as naturally as easily. I have to work very hard at writing. So it wasn't my first choice to like write a book, but a lot of people kept talking to me about, oh, do you have a book? Do you have a book? So it kind of came from the audience, and then Instagram also, right? Growing an audience on Instagram. So I think that is really important. You have to have an audience that you're going to sell to. So if you don't have a newsletter or a social media platform, something where you're connecting with an audience, it's going to be harder for you to sell the book, because you have to start from scratch with random strangers who don't know you to try to convince them to buy something from you. So I having a built-in audience, having a built-in following, that definitely helped with the first few months of sales. Of book sales was really just coming from people that were already on my email list, that were already in my YouTube subscribers, were already following me on Instagram. And those first few months of a push was really coming from, my people, my community. And then beyond that, I actually decided that I was going to start focusing on bringing the books to schools, and as much as I can to try to bring it to schools for free to the school. So somebody going to pay for these books, but it's not going to be the students and the schools and the teachers. So that meant that I had to really start thinking about, okay, who are people that are looking to donate to schools? Banks, credit unions, insurance companies. They all have a lot of money. They all, fintech companies, they all want to donate to schools. They want to, their brand to be known by schools and by students and families and communities. And buying a district supply worth of books from me to give to the school means the students get it free and the companies get to do a good thing for the community. So I really just started to do a ton of that, like reaching out to high net worth individuals that are in my network and my network's network. And then also partnering with, anytime I would do a brand partnership, I would say, instead of paying me a speaking fee, why don't you just go ahead and buy a couple thousand books? That way I can give 3 or 4 school districts books for all the students that attend those school districts, and I can speak at your conference for free, basically. Typically I would charge a speaking fee, but if I would tell them, if you buy books, I will raise the speaking fee. So you have to start getting creative about how can you get bulk orders for your book, because trying to sell a book one at a time to individual people is not the move, right? So for me, that's really what it was. And I did a hybrid book publishing deal, which means that 100% of my royalties are mine. Whereas when a lot of times when you have a book deal from a traditional publisher, you don't own the rights and royalties to your book. And so that was a huge thing for me, knowing that I wanted to keep my rights and keep my royalties. And so I had to go that route. I could have self-published completely, but I have no idea what that would entail. And it would take me so long to figure it out. And I also wanted my book to look and feel professionally published. So that was what led me to do the hybrid route. But man, yeah, a lot of time dedicated to a marketing plan of who are the people that are going to pay for these books, that are going to get them to the hands of these students at high schools and colleges across the country. And also donors choose. Teachers will add my book to their class list. And then over the holidays, I got a big sales boost over the holidays, because a lot of people go to Donors Choose to donate. They'll just donate $1,000 and they'll click around a couple different teachers' wish lists and just buy whatever's on their wish list. And my book happens to be on a lot of teachers' wish lists. Like, oh, I would love a class set of this book for my students. So by they click the button, boom, 40 books just purchased at one shot. It's rather than somebody on my Instagram click a link and that's one book sale. So right. But trying to find creative ways to align your book with audiences where bulk orders are possible. That to me was like, that changed the game for book sales for me. And I highly recommend other people to think about that as well.
Yeah, we're going to wrap offline about that, Yaneli, because that's one of the things that I need a mentor in that respect. And I love how you just said that, selling in bulk. Something else I want to ask you about as well. First and foremost, girl, stop poo-pooing 50,000 subscribers. I've seen your content.
I'm just saying.
It's fire. Yeah, but most of me and you are both in the are both in the financial literacy space and the fintech space. And I was blown away how many speakers I've met that don't have monetized channels that talk finance. When I was at FinCon, that kind of blew me away. I just assumed everybody had a monetized channel, and I was kind of shocked that they don't. That's the first thing. Yeah. And then secondly, unfortunately, some of the individuals I find, particularly in the finance world, that have the highest subscribers, the content they're putting out is absolute trash. It's going to lead you either in prison or it's going to basically lead you broke. So you push legitimate content, Yaneli, that's dope, and you got 50,000 subscribers. I'm at 3,000 subscribers right now, and I'm proud to say that because I know how hard it is to get there.
That's right. And look, I started at 0. We both started at 0 subscribers.
Exactly.
We both got 1 at some point, and I had 3,000 at one point. So it's all part of the journey. And I
Yep.
appreciate that. I really do, because look, I'm not trying to poo-poo on the 50K. I'm just saying, when people hear that I've been on YouTube for 10 years, they're like, you've been on YouTube for 10 years, you must have like 3 million subscribers, right? Because it comes with the territory of thinking that when you've been on there for a couple years creating content. But I'll tell you the truth, YouTube has always been a passion project for me, but I knew that I didn't want my entire career to be about being a social media influencer, being a YouTuber, because even if I make $10 million off YouTube and I'm good to go, right? And I have enough wealth for me and my next generation, like, I'm not really changing lives besides my own. And of course, people can learn from the videos, but like sometimes they learn it, they watch it, and they still don't do it.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to go bigger. Like, I wanted to actually know for a fact that my work was creating change that I want to see in the world. So the work that I do now, granted, it's through a nonprofit, so it's not like I'm making $500,000 a year or anything like I would in corporate, but it's incredible work, and I get to actually make an impact. Like this week, I just flew back from Austin, Texas, and I traveled to a lot of state capitals because we push bills to get signed into law that require financial literacy to be taught for a high school graduation requirement at public high schools. So we got that law passed in Ohio, in Georgia, in Florida. We got that bill passed in Connecticut, in New Hampshire, in Kansas, in California, Michigan, Indiana. I mean, we've been doing this work. And so I started this in 2021 with the legislative work. And at that time, there were only like 8 states that required this class. And today there's 26 states. Matter of fact, in a couple of days, it's about to be 27, because Kentucky has a bill sitting on the governor's desk that any day now he's going to sign it. They become the 27th state. And then I'm working on a bill in Texas that might be 28, and another bill in Colorado that might be 29. So we're like, I can one day be sitting on my rocker chair telling my grandbabies, like, yeah, that's right, your grandma's the reason why you take that financial literacy class, okay? Because it was me who fought for it, and that means more to me than 50 million subscribers on YouTube.
Absolutely. Personal finance, it's a crime. They don't teach this stuff in the high schools and the middle schools. I always say, if I knew what I knew, if I knew what I knew at 19 when I first started, when I was in college, what I know now, I'd be a decking millionaire. And it is what it is. My sons, they'll be the beneficiary of all this knowledge.
That's right.
That's how to look at it.
It's generational.
It's generational, and it's a crime they don't teach financial literacy in the school systems. How did you go about getting into the political aspect of, okay, I want to get a personal finance class into high schools, into the middle school? How did you go about doing that, Yaneli?
Yeah, so the organization that I work with, the NGPF, actually does a curriculum for teachers who want to teach personal finance. So we give them the free curriculum, free lessons, activities, games, homework assignments, tests, everything that a teacher would need to teach this class and do a good job at it. We give it to them for free. And then we also give them free teacher training. Now, that organization is able to do everything for free as a nonprofit because the co-founder created an endowment fund. So here's another thing: when you become independently wealthy, you can make the change you want to see in the world because you can make it happen with those dollars that you have. So the co-founder, he, became independently wealthy, and he set up an endowment fund to make sure that the organization would never run out of money, and for generations to come would continue to be able to provide these services for schools and teachers for free. But that was in 2014 when he established the nonprofit. And in 2021, we realized, like, only a couple of states are actually requiring this. So everywhere else, it's just teachers who are doing it because they know how important it is, and they doing it because it's the right thing to do, but they're not required to do it. So a lot of teachers who are not required to do it, they're just not going to do it. Schools are just not going to teach it. So we realized very quickly, yeah, we could do the grassroots, teacher by teacher, word of mouth, and we can keep doing that kind of work, but we have to couple it with the top down work, which is to actually get the legislation from the top to require everybody at the bottom to actually teach the class. So that was when we decided we need to do this, and created an affiliate organization. So like a brother or sister organization called NGPF Mission 2030 Fund. And so NGPF is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and NGPF Mission 2030 Fund is a 501c4 not-for-profit. So that slight difference in designation as a not-for-profit status allows the Mission 2030 Fund organization to use the money for political change, for lobbying. And so with that money, we're actually able to, first of all, I get to buy flights to go travel around the country to talk to senators, representatives, and we get to use the money to pay to lobbyists who will help us to get meetings with these folks, because they're busy and they got a lot of emails in their inbox and a lot of people coming at them with issues left and right. And so in order to get time on their busy schedules, you kind of need a champion to be in there talking to them, knocking on their door. That's what the lobbyist does. And so we hire lobbyists at the state level, They get us direct connections to the lawmakers. We find the right champion, the right lawmaker to write the bill and file it and push it. And then if it gets a majority vote on the House side and the Senate side, in terms of the education committee members voting yes for that bill, then it makes its way to the governor's desk for signing. And so it is a long, arduous process. Local politics is not for the faint of heart. I've learned so much working in this space, and it's very eye-opening. And honestly, like, I've also realized that it's accessible to anybody with enough wealth that you can hire a lobbyist to push your issue. So if you really care deeply about something and you think the law needs to change regarding that issue, and you have the money to bankroll the effort, then you can do it. So it's sort of like motivated me more, even more, to get my money right and to pursue wealth building, because with wealth comes power, the power to literally change the laws for the better. And sometimes people use their power and wealth to change the laws for the worse. So then we need good people with wealth too, to fight back against bad people with wealth who are using their money in bad ways. So at the end of the day, that has been more of a motivator for me. But yeah, getting into this political work, it just kind of happened naturally as an extension of the work we were doing at NGPF, and realizing, all right, this grassroots work is cool, but we got to do some top down so we can really couple it and make that change happen faster.
Let me ask you this from a political perspective. Do you get like pushback from like a red state or a blue state or a Republican or a Democrat as far as who wants to push financial literacy? Because to me, not teaching financial literacy is a phenomenal way to keep certain groups poor. In your book, I never knew about the Freedmen's Bank until I read it. I was disgusted that I'm gonna do a podcast on everybody. I was blown away. I've never heard of that until I read your book. And I'm like, why is this not in every school system in America? But yeah, do you find that certain, I don't say certain parties, but certain people have an agenda to put financial literacy into the high schools or into the schools in general?
I'm going to tell you the God honest truth. When I started this work, that was my hypothesis. That was my belief. I came in thinking that certain political party wanted to keep this from us so that we can stay uneducated and they can keep making money off of us. I've learned since that that's not really the case. What really is the case is that it is a negotiation. Now, a negotiation usually involves two parties, like me and you, Chris. We're negotiating back and forth till we reach an agreement. But this type of negotiation in politics is different, because there's not two parties. There's like 2,000 parties. You got to get the principals on board, the superintendents on board, the parents on board, the school leaders on board. You got to get all of the state board and the folks at the Department of Education on board. You got to get the teachers union on board. You got to get the bankers league on board. You got to get support from the local community. You got to get support from the actual lawmakers, the senators, the representatives. You have to convince so many people to, first of all, agree that this matters enough that it deserves a standalone personal finance course requirement. And you also have to get them all to read the language of a certain bill and agree on the exact wording of the language of the bill. And when we're talking about, like, think of like terms and conditions and fine print on a document, that's how these bills read. Sometimes they be like 20 pages long. And so most of these people ain't got time to read 20-page proposals. So what they do is they just hand it to their staffers and go like, look, read that and tell me what it says, and should I vote yes for it or no? So if the staffer reads it and goes, oh, this is not a good idea, they're trying to put it in social studies, but I think they should put it in math, you shouldn't support this. That one little detail of, oh, it's under social studies department and not the math department, would be the reason they vote no. And so it has just been such a challenge to change the system, because the system is designed not to be changed. So many people have to align and agree. But I will say there's differences in terms of the reasoning behind the support. I have seen support from any state, red, blue, purple, whatever. All the states definitely support. But if you're in a primarily Republican state, the reason why they support it is very different. They talk about it as like, what they fear the most is that this young generation, like Gen Z, you see a lot of these young people, they're like anti-system. Like they're very, depressed, right? And like anxious. And of course, with good reason. Like, finances look very different for you as a Gen Z millennial than it did for boomers, right? And so they're feeling that the weight of how hard things are getting. Like, it's living wage hasn't changed, but inflation keeps going up, and the price of a house is extremely high. Like, the price of tuition of college keeps increasing. What does not increase though is the minimum wage. So people are feeling extremely depressed and stressed and frustrated financially. And so the result is a lot of them will look and go, the system, like it doesn't allow us to thrive. And so what happens is they look to different alternatives than capitalism. They might look to socialism. They might look to communism. They might look to democratic socialism. And for a lot of Republicans, that's their biggest fear. They're like, oh my gosh, we have to prevent every possible way, shape, or form that the youth look to socialism and communism. We have to teach anti-communism, anti-socialism in schools. So they look at this course as an opportunity to catch the youth before they turn 18 and can legally sign on the dotted line and teach them, how can you thrive within a capitalistic society? What can you do? What are tools available to you within our capitalistic society? What are resources available to you? Did you know that if you have a job, you can open a custodial Roth IRA even if you're not 18? Did you know that you can open a bank account or credit union? You know there's high yield savings accounts that can give you more interest than the regular banks. Can we teach them this and empower them to actually participate in these systems and take advantage of the tools available to them in our system as it is? Thriving within capitalism is kind of the ideology there. Whereas when you go to predominantly democratic states or states where the majority of the lawmakers are democratic, they don't view it that way. They view it as, we need to support this because this is an equity issue. You're going to have families that already come from wealth, that already know the game of money, and they're going to teach it to their kids regardless. And then you have students and families that know nothing and have never even have any proximity to wealth. So how in the heck are they going to teach lessons that they don't even know themselves? So it continues to perpetuate the advantaged people continue to have the advantage to pass wealth down and pass knowledge down. And the disadvantaged financially don't have the ability to teach. So they stay at the disadvantage, and it perpetuates cycles of inequality and inequity and income gaps and wealth gaps. And a lot of those gaps are racial gaps. So it becomes an issue of racial justice and equity for a lot of the Democratic Party. And they view it as a must do to equalize and get things to actually be fair. So we're all on the same playing field when we graduate out of high school, and nobody can turn and say, well, they never taught me that. That's not fair. Well, actually they did. You had a whole semester course about taxes, insurance, and credit, and banking, and budgeting, and investing in the stock market. Now, whether you took advantage of it or not is here nor there, but you had it and was provided to you, just like you took government, civics, U.S. history, geography. You're getting this class. And so that is what I have learned, that the reason why they support it is different, but they both support it.
That was powerful. That was a mouthful. Seriously, wow.
Yeah, that's a little insider information right there.
No, but it makes perfect sense. I've always, full disclosure, when I started the YouTube version of Financipation 3 years ago, I'm gonna be real with you. One reason why I did was because I got sick and tired of seeing a bunch of old, stale, male white males teaching financial literacy on social media and YouTube. I mean, nothing wrong with Dave Ramsey, nothing wrong with you want to call it Grant Cardone a finance guy. Nothing wrong with Grant Cardone, nothing wrong with Tony Robbins. They're good guys. But from a kid, once again, who grew up in Florida, looks like you, in your case, a Latina that looks like you, is teaching you about Roth IRAs and index funds and custodial accounts and starting uniform transfer to minor acts and things like that. Or being an entrepreneur, it hits a little different when they look like you. That's one reason why I started Financipation. And it's like you said earlier, on YouTube, you can literally educate the world, whereas in the classroom, you can educate 30 or 40 kids over a 20-year period.
Exactly.
So that was so powerful what you said. I agree. If you had $1 million, Yaneli, I'm curious, how would you? Because whenever I ask people how they want to invest their money, I find this is the easiest way to do it. If you had $1 million, what would you do? What would you and your husband do with it? I guess how would you invest it?
So, I mean, for me right now, I think the key is that a lot of people just straight jump right into investing. And I really do think you have to have some cash on hand. Like, that's the biggest thing. If I had an extra million right now and I had to figure out what to do with it, I would probably take like maybe 50,000 of it and just park it in either a certificate of deposit, savings, treasury bond, so it's getting a little bit of a higher yield, or a high yield savings account. Just compare those options, look at the rates, and parks a good amount of cash that's going to last you more than just a month, a couple of weeks, but something that allows you to just sleep easy, knowing anything happened, boom, I got the cash. I can withdraw it today with no questions asked, right? Then the rest of it, I would decide, okay, do I want to throw it into the stock market, or do I want to have rental real estate? Rental real estate is great because it is a cash flowing, appreciating asset. Now, I would not buy a house and then me and my boyfriend go live in it. I wouldn't do that with them, because that's not, to me, an investment. It's an appreciating asset, but it is actually costing you more money because you have to continue to pay down that mortgage. Plus you have to pay your property taxes, plus you have to pay your insurance, plus you have to pay maintenance on your home. So unless it's going to become a rental property or rental units, I wouldn't invest in it. So for me, it would be a matter of deciding whether I'm going to throw it in the market or rental real estate. Both are cash flowing, appreciating assets, because if you throw it in the market, you can get yourself some stocks or funds that pay you dividends. That's cash flowing right there. So I would for sure prioritize cash flowing, appreciating assets. Stocks with dividends are cash flowing, appreciating assets. I wouldn't focus so much on stocks that don't pay dividends. Again, the cash flowing part is very important for me. So I would stay away from crypto. I would stay away from gold. Because those are not cash flowing. Yeah, they potentially could be appreciating assets, but there's no cash flow. So I would not put money in gold. I would not put money in crypto. I would focus on cash flowing, appreciating assets like dividend paying stocks, dividend issuing stocks, and rental real estate. And either, split the money between those or just pick a project that I wanted to do. Like if there was a building with 12 units or something like that, I would drop money on something like that, because that's something I can pass down generationally. It can help me a lot with the tax benefits of it. And again, the cash flow from that appreciating property. But if I was going to go into the market, I'm a very long-term passive ETF or passive index fund girl. Like, again, I'm throwing it in either. Actually, these days I've been a little more curious about global index. So I might put it in a total world index fund or a total US. So those are the two that I would consider.
Nah, that's dope. That's dope. It's a very diversified account. I like how you talked about pretty much everything. You talked about the cash on hand, liquid cash, particularly what's kind of going on with our economy right now. Everybody, you want to have a lot of cash because there are going to be some very phenomenal deals that are going to come up in the next year or so. Think 2008 meltdown kind of deals. I also like how you talked about the index. You talked about index funds and ETFs. You also talked about global stocks and things of that nature, because there's a wide world outside of America that's going very well. One thing I do want to ask you about, you didn't seem like a very big proponent of crypto and Forex. And I actually got to a pretty, not heated, but I got to a somewhat interesting altercation with a guy recently on one of my podcasts, or one of his podcasts actually, about this. So what's your take on Forex and crypto?
You know what? I'm not a fan of Forex trading. I think that there's a place for that when you are a professional trader or broker, where you actually study the foreign exchange markets, and there's a place for those types of professions to actually look at that. For everyday retail investor, like average everyday person who's investing their money, simplicity is key. And ain't nothing simple about Forex markets. It takes years to really master it. Same thing with options trading. I'm not a fan. Like, I really just focus on low cost ETF investing, low cost index fund investing, tried and true. Over the long run, you're going to be more than good. And in terms of crypto, so it's funny, I actually teach cryptocurrency basics as a certification course to teachers. It's a 10-hour course. I built it from scratch, and I teach investing and advanced investing also, which are separately each 10-hour courses. But teachers who come to us to the NGPF platform, and they're like, I have students asking me about crypto. I don't know nothing about crypto. I don't even know what to say to them. But I don't want to, basically make my students think that I don't know anything about crypto, because this class is about personal finance, and crypto is a big piece of finances nowadays. So we have that course. They take it for 10 hours, take an exam, and get a certification. And so in order to design that class, I had to become a crypto obsessed, because the only way you can teach crypto is if you actually wrap your mind around it yourself. Otherwise, you're just regurgitating facts, and then people ask you questions and you don't know the answer. So you don't want to, you don't want to be in that situation. So I started studying crypto in 2016, 2017. I invested in it myself because I figured I got to have some skin in the game so I can learn with money rather than just watching the markets. So if you really want to learn something, I definitely recommend putting money. You don't have to put a lot of money, even just a little bit of money, but you have some skin in the game so you can pay more attention to the movements in the market. So I bought Bitcoin early, like 2016, which, I mean, relatively speaking, that's not super early, but that's earlier than most. And then I got really into it, understanding what is it, how does it work, right? Like on a technical level, how does a transaction happen? How does it function? And in terms of the blockchain, like what does that actually look like, and how does it function in terms of the cryptography, the coding that actually enables it to function. And that I just became obsessed. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a nerd when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to using blockchain for different applications beyond crypto as well. But I understand it on a nerdy level and a beyond level, not just about like which apps to download to buy Bitcoin. That doesn't show that you actually understand what it is, how it functions, right? And so I understand fully, like really on a deep level. And personally, I have sold all of the Bitcoin that I had. I'm no longer in the crypto markets at all because I had to really do a deep dive in understanding the impact on our planet. And I feel like the impact that Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, and AI have on our planet is doing more detriment than it is to benefit anybody. And that is really hard for me to actually come to terms with, like continuing to invest in something that I believe is more detrimental to our planet and to humanity than it is serving us in any good. So I had to opt out. I had to get out. But I understand why people are in it, why they believe in it, why they think that it has a lot of benefits. And it's true, it does. But when you look at like the pros and the cons together, one outweighs the other. And in my opinion, the cons list is way heavier than the list of pros. And it doesn't justify like how horrible it is for the environment in terms of so much carbon emissions. I mean, you got warehouses in Norway, you got warehouses in Texas, literally wiping out the grid, like taking the power off. Like people can't even access electricity in Texas because of how bad it was when all of the crypto companies during the pandemic were like, really pulling on the power grid. So it takes
I built some of those data centers.
Yeah. So intimately how much space they take up. And then inside of those warehouses and data centers, you don't just have like a couple of computers. You have like, if you imagine walking into a shoe store where every single shelf, row, and column is shoes, but replace the shoes with computers that are specialized. Yeah, they're specialized computers that only process Bitcoin transactions, which is called the ASICs device. If you just stack up ASICs devices in rows and columns, and each one of those takes so much energy, you have to keep it plugged in, and it gets hot, just like your laptop. When you don't turn it off for a long time, it starts going and start getting hot, and a little fan starts to blow out. Imagine that stacked up in rows and columns. They have to prevent it from overheating. So now they got to bust on the AC. So now you got all those things plugged into electricity, stacked in rows and columns, plus electricity pulling on for the air conditioner and the fans to cool everything down. And that's why so many of these data centers and processing warehouses are in cold places, like in Norway, because it keeps it cooler naturally versus in Texas, where you got to put the AC on blast for this massive warehouse to keep it cool enough to keep running these computers. And it's not like they run them from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. like a work day. These are running 24/7,
365.
So, I mean, one warehouse takes more energy than like some cities, right? So you start to realize, like, is it really that deep? Is it really necessary to do that just so that I can send money to somebody anywhere in the world without anybody in between and save myself the 3% transaction fee? Like, is it really that deep? Or can we pay the 2%? Or can we all come together to demand lower transaction fees from these financial institutions, maybe a 1% or maybe a 0.5% transaction fee, so you can send money anywhere in the world and not have to literally hurt the planet, make it so much worse environmentally? Like, I just think these are the things that humans have to grapple with. And unfortunately, it's not going to be our generation that will have to grapple with this or with the implications of it. It's going to be our babies and grandbabies that are going to be left with this nasty, messy planet that we created for them, leaving them with the problems that they have to now solution. And that stresses me out. So I personally just don't support it for those reasons.
I'm not gonna go into all the stuff because I have signed NDAs with it, but I'll say it like this: I built an 82-story high-rise in Miami, in downtown Brickell, and I built a data center in another part of the world. That 82-story building, if you basically took the electrical power that building took and multiply it by 1,000, I built a warehouse that was a data center that basically had 1,000 of those buildings inside of it. That's how much power this data center pulled. I'm not gonna tell you anything else more about it besides that. And yeah,
82,000 floors is basically what you're describing.
Yeah, and this was an 82-story high-rise building, and this one data center that I built had 1,000. It pulled 1,000 times more energy than that 82-story high-rise, and this at the time was the largest high-rise outside of New York City.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people have to ask themselves, is it really worth? Is it worth that? And you know what? There's people out there who will say yes. That's the wild part to me is that I've been in debates with people that will say, yes, it is worth it. The
Honestly though,
Nets.
Yaneli, what got me with crypto, it's just too risky. I mean,
That
that's what
part
kind of
too.
gets me with it. Like to me, like
Yeah.
I was talking to his brother the other day. He said, "Yeah, I've been invested into crypto since 2012. If you book a session with me, I'm gonna introduce you to a guys and introduce you to a guys will make you money." So I told the dude straight, I was like, "Brother, you've been doing this for 13 years and you still don't know well enough to teach it yourself." I was
Come
like,
on
"Dude, I
now.
was like, come on, brother, seriously, dude, what are you talking about?" I
Wake
was
up
just
and smell
like,
the coffee.
dude, it's no reason you should be investing your money into anything for 13 for really for 1 year and not have a clue
And
how it
not have
works.
a basic understanding of what is being done on your behalf.
And
That's
that
wild.
and I noticed it, Nelly, also. You didn't mention a lot of crypto in that $1 million in that $1 million account that you got. You didn't mention buying a lot of crypto with that. Yeah, like I said,
I did not, but I didn't buy a ton of crypto. I put maybe a
yeah,
couple. I put like $5,000 in it back in 2016. Like, and then I just let that grow. And every now and then I would dollar cost average in and
yeah.
stuff. But I would be on and off with the dollar cost averaging in, and sometimes I would just stop it and just put my money into regular ETFs, and then I would go back and stuff. So it was an on and off thing for a few years until I really dove deep and started teaching this course. And I realized, man, I'm not going to be able to, because one day my niece and nephews are going to ask me, Tia, did you own a lot of crypto? And I'm gonna have to tell them, oh yes, baby, I have a lot of Bitcoin. Like, if I'm not going to be proud to talk about what I've done, then I shouldn't be doing it. That's just how I feel.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Yeah, definitely. Your content, Yaneli, is fire. What are because I want to be respectful of your time. What are three bits of financial advice, or three bits of advice, rather you would give my listeners in regards to building generational wealth? Because the name of this channel is Financial Emancipation or
Mm,
Financipation. Three bits
yes.
of
Okay.
advice.
The biggest one is automation is your best friend. That is the single biggest predictor of wealth building is automation. If it's something that you have to wake up and remember to do or cross off your to-do list every day or every week or every month, it is a significantly less likely chance that you will become wealthy because you're going to make an excuse. You're going to forget to do it. You're not going to, remember to get to it or whatever's going to happen. Life gets in the way. If it's automated, you don't have to have discipline. You don't have to remember. You don't have to have everything lined up perfectly and the stars aligned so that nothing works out against you and you can't get to it. You don't have to worry about any of those things because it's automated. So one quick example, right? I always tell people if you start with $1,000 and you invest that into low cost index funds and they average about 10% every year, that $1,000 over 25 years will grow to about $10,800, right? But if you take that same $1,000 and you invest it, and then you add an automatic recurring contribution of $25 automatically transferred out of your checking account and into that investment account on top of the 1,000 that you put, that one-time investment of 1,000, 25 every single week for the same 25 years at the same 10% interest rate or return rate. After those 25 years, you're not going to have no $10,800. You're going to have $151,000. So just think about if each one of our families could give $151,000 to our children when they turn 25 years old. Talk about generational wealth. Like they can use it for a down payment on a rental property or a home. They can use it to start a business, to start their entrepreneurial venture. They can use it to travel the world and become more worldly and figure out what they want to do and see the world, like whatever they want to do, right? Whatever it is that wealth allows us to do, we can do when we actually have wealth. I just know I damn sure wish my mom and dad called me when I was 25 and say, happy birthday, baby, here's $150,000. And the fact that so many of us think that that's so far fetched, it's not impossible for us to do when actually all it takes is $1,000 to start, which I know a lot of y'all are getting that on your income tax refund check. So no excuses. You could take $1,000 from your income tax refund, park it in that investment account and put $25 a week after that. We're talking about handing your 20-year-old $150,000. So to me, that is the most powerful thing. The $25 automatically contributed through a recurring contribution every single week is the game changer, because that $1,000 by itself was only going to get you 10 grand. So really, we have to be automate your finances as much as you can. Automatic contributions to investment accounts, automatic savings, automate your budget, automate your credit card payments so that you never have a late payment on a credit card. Every aspect of my finances is automated, and I just check up on it quarterly. Sometimes, once or twice a month, I'll just peek because I'm curious, but I generally do not have to do much. I'm very hands off because automation is my best friend when it comes to money and wealth building. So that's the first one. The second one I'll say is less is more. Simplicity is key. You're going to see everybody and their mama on social media, on TikTok, on YouTube, trying to push the most complicated strategies for building wealth. Tax liens, buying property that has been distressed or that has been foreclosed, Forex trading, options trading, penny stock trading, crypto, meme stocks. And the thing is, look, sure, you could play around with all of that. But at the end of the day, what the research and historical data shows to be true is that the most simple approach, the simplest path to wealth is the path that is pretty much the only one that's guaranteed. All those other things, newfangled, sexy, hot, cool, trendy, sure, but none of them are guaranteed to get you there. I'm not trying to take the cool, trendy approach. I'm trying to take the guaranteed approach, even if it takes me a little longer, because I can enjoy my life along the way. I don't have to be focusing on watching the markets, and Forex is 24/7, but people become addicted and they never sleep. And their kids are like, Daddy, can you give me some attention? And they're over here watching the Forex markets because they're addicted. So I don't want to live that life. So literally the simplest approach, low cost index funds, low cost ETFs, dollar cost average, throw money in every week, every month, every single quarter, every single year, and forget about it. Set it and forget it. Yeah. So automation, simplicity. And the last thing I would say is, you have to understand the systems at play. So you got to study, and you got to self-study, because nobody else is going to teach you, because nobody else cares about your finances more than you will. So you can't be like, oh, I'm going to take this course, I'm going to hire this person. Stop. Don't point to nobody but yourself. I'm going to study to a point where I understand the credit system. I understand credit scoring. I understand the 5 factors of your credit score. I understand lending and borrowing and responsible debt repayment. I can teach that to somebody else. That's how well I understand it. Once I check that off, credit, done, move on. Banking. Do I understand depository institutions? Do I understand interest rates? Do I understand what they do with the money once I deposit it in the bank? Do I understand credit union versus traditional banks? Do I understand fintech, neobanks? So I wrap my mind around banking, boom, move on. Investing, taxes, insurance. And you just start tackling each of these topics as if this is a class that you're taking and you're studying through until you master the curriculum. Because once you do that, you have the gift that nobody can take from you. You have a gift that, like, that's it. It's irreversible. Now that you know, you can never unknow, and you can pass it on to your kids, to your nieces and nephews, to your siblings, you can pass it up to your parents and grandparents. You can pass it down, and you can go left and right in your community. And like, literally, when I tell you, that's how you make waves and make ripples, because knowledge is the one thing that nobody can take from you.
Yep. My grandfather used to always say that. Yep. Yaneli, I'm gonna do this mic drop. Seriously, like everything you said, it's always funny. One thing I loved about FinCon, I got to be around my own people. And what I mean, this ain't got nothing to do with race, religion, politics, all that. I got to walk into a convention, and I was around 1,000 entrepreneurs, nerds like me, good at math, money nerds. I got to be around that. And how you were just saying that, when I talk money and finance, that's how I sound. And I'm like, I'm seeing myself speak through a Latina right now. And it was beautiful. It was dope.
Yes, twins.
It's so true though, because like, my parents and my grandparents worked so hard their whole lives. They never knew the importance of investing. They were never taught that. They were from that generation that they didn't learn that kind of stuff. I'm the first one in my generation I'm the first one in my family that has kind of just went balls to the walls for, okay, how does investing actually works? And it's really cool, because like my hood cousins and like my family's all in the projects and stuff like that. When they come to me about questions, the knowledge I can give them, I'm like, okay, cool. At this point, you know what to do. Your cousin has taught you. Your uncle has taught you. You know what to do with it. And my parents didn't have that. My grandparents didn't have that. And this is how you change the generational tree with all the racial things that kind of exist in the United States of America.
Yeah.
If you're cool with it, I want to ask you 2 more questions, because I want to respectfully your time. All right. What are 3 books? Readers are leaders. The average millionaire reads 50+ books a year. The average American reads 1 book per year. So what are 3 books you would advise my listeners to read?
Oh man, the first one is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. That book changed my life. Like, when I tell you, I realized reading that book that it doesn't have to be all these crazy complicated things they're talking about, trading stocks, options, penny stock. You don't have to learn how to read the stock charts. You don't have to learn how the candlesticks. You don't got to do none of that stuff. You just have to understand the simple path, which is low cost, so really low fees, and getting that average return over time of a very large diversified large cap or total market fund, whether it's an ETF or index fund. If you can master that, and that is so basic, it might sound foreign to some people who don't know the vocabulary, but once you wrap your mind around the concept, that's all you need. And that book taught me so much about index investing, long-term investing, keeping your lifestyle simple, not overdoing it, avoiding debt, especially high interest, unnecessary debt. and also other things that I didn't know anything about, like bond funds. I learned so much about bonds and treasuries in that book that helped me understand, like, as I get older, that's the approach I'm going to take. Right now, no, because I'm younger and I'm on the more aggressive track. But that's a great book to help you wrap your mind around. It's called The Simple Path to Wealth. The second one that I would say, which is a little bit boring, but I really love the research, the questions and the studies in it, or like the surveys that they have in there, is The Millionaire Next Door.
I knew you were
So
going to say
that
that.
book, yeah, that book, they
You're going to say
interview
that.
1,000 different millionaires who are all the first millionaire ever in their family. So these are not people who were born with a trust fund and their parents had millions and gave it to them. Like, no, we're talking about people who came from nothing and created a million or more on their own, whether that's through entrepreneurship, whether that's through homeownership, whether it's like whatever approach they took, they all end up there for the first time, the first generation. And they answer the same question 1,000 different ways. And you start to see that a lot of their answers are very similar. And even though they never met each other, they're all doing the same or similar things. So it's basically the cheat code for becoming a millionaire. And I really, really love that book. Especially because for me growing up in like the hood, a lot of it was like glorifying like having Jordans and having a certain name brand watch and having certain name brand clothes.
Timberlands and everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
having Tims, having this name brand,
Yep.
that, having this car. And in that book, I realized that that's the trap. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that millionaires live like that, because that way you're so obsessed with looking like a millionaire that you forget that you're supposed to actually be a millionaire. You just busy trying to look like one. And so that's the trap. And I realized that from The Millionaire Next Door, which is Dr. Thomas Stanley and one other PhD professor, which I forget the other guy's name, but just search The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley. So Simple Path to Wealth, The Millionaire Next Door. And then I think the third book I'm going to say, oh man, as you can see, I have so many money books back here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I'm going to say, because I want to say one that was not written by a white man. That's why I'm trying to find another book. I'm going to say Get Good with Money, Tiffany Aliche. Like, yeah, I mean, she is the fairy godmother of all things personal finance and financial literacy. When I started putting videos on YouTube in 2015, a good friend of mine had asked me, like, oh, are you going to start doing financial literacy now? Like Tiffany Aliche, the budgetista. And I said, like, who? Like the budget what? And she was like, yeah, you should check out her Facebook group. Like she does basically like financial education like you. And I was like, I have never even, I didn't know that was that I could do that could be a career path. Right. And so Tiffany is like the godmother of any financial influencer nowadays who's a young woman doing financial content. We have Tiffany to look at and say, wow, like she really paved the way for us to be able to see a woman of color. She's from Newark, New Jersey. She's from right around my way. Like to see how she took her story and really transformed it into being what she calls America's favorite financial educator, which I love. Like, I think she really carved that path and made that way for herself. And that gave me permission. It gave me like, not any permission, but it really gave me the motivation to say like, wow, because how you said before, representation matters. If you don't see anybody from a culture or community like yours, you just don't think that it's for you or it's possible. And, Tiffany really showed me it's possible. Her book, Get Good with Money, is a New York Times bestseller, honey. She's amazing. And I've worked with her. I've been on stage with her. I consider her a good friend and mentor. So I would say Get Good with Money is the number 3 book you got to read.
Yeah, that's the one book that you've mentioned that I did not read. I'm gonna start reading that tomorrow. So yeah.
Boom, get it.
I'm starting reading that tomorrow. When you wrote your book, Yaneli, how many subscribers, what was your subscriber count like on YouTube and everything? You dropped on Mind Your Money.
Let me see. It was back in 2019 as I decided to write the book. 2020, I actually started in 2021 and I finished it in late 2022, published it in mid 2023. So all throughout that time, I was probably anywhere between 25 to 30,000, and then slowly growing, to 40 and 50 with over that year or two. But the other thing too is while I was writing the book, I was so invested in it. Like I was taking all my time. When I wasn't working, I was writing the book. And when I wasn't, doing that, I was with family or, or whatever. Just so it was a lot of time. And that meant that I had to pull back from social. I couldn't really be producing the consistent content that I was. So my YouTube channel took a big hit. My analytics look real bad when you start to see around that time because I was no longer putting as consistently because I was trying to get the book done. So
right.
I do think you have to realize like you kind of got to juggle a lot of projects. And of course I could have hired a team to like take over YouTube and make sure I was on it with that. But I'm one woman show for the most part. I have a small team that helps me with administrative stuff, but I think at some point I am going to have to decide like, okay, I'm going to have to hire a team and go all in to grow this thing more, because I can't do it all by myself. We it takes a village. You can't do it all alone. And that was my biggest learning too, is like the social media would have continued to really grow if I had not pulled back so much to focus all my energy on the book, if I could have done a better job of balancing it. So, that's just one of the key takeaways I took from that process.
Dope, dope. I would say if I were to answer that question, I would say I'm gonna probably give a shout out to my book, Scholarships, The Golden Road to Free Money. And I'm gonna say that because a lot of kids, guys, you can go to college for free and make it significantly less expensive. There are over 11 billion with the B dollars of free money out there. So go get some of it, okay? I'm also gonna say another phenomenal book is The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by Jack Bogle. He's actually a personal hero of mine.
Yep.
If I could have five dinner guests dead or alive, Jack Bogle, old, rich, cool white guy, I would invite him there because he literally, in my opinion, set the stage for how minorities can essentially catch wealth by simply investing. When he created when he basically popularized and modernized the index fund.
Yep.
And the last book I'm gonna say is You're Latino, I'm African American. Black Faces in White Places by Dr. Randall Pinkett.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that book is because if you are the only, and I'm used to always being the only, Yaneli, I'm pretty sure you've been in spaces where you're the only, there are certain ways you can move. That book kind of breaks down how you can succeed in any environment, regardless of whether you're the only or not. And it's really a powerful book that I would advise everyone to listen to. And my last question, Yaneli, I want to ask this because I can hear my kids saying, Dad, 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 Dad. Yeah, you are a proud Latina, you are a daughter, you are a sister, you're an entrepreneur, and you are a great example to honestly all of us, period. You're also a teacher as well. When God calls you home, Yaneli, and your time on earth is past, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oof. Oh man. I mean, obviously right now I'm on this mission of like getting all the states to require financial literacy. I ideally I would love for that mission and legacy to be global, where financial empowerment, financial education was available in the average household across the globe because of my work. But being realistic, shooting for the stars, I might land in the clouds, right? I think that, or the moon. I think that the goal of saying my legacy would be like financial literacy in America has improved greatly because everybody has access to it in the public school system. That would be amazing. Right now, the goal is like the year 2030, which is where the Mission 2030 Fund got its name from, that by the year 2030, all 50 states will require personal finance for high school graduation. Right now, we're at 26 states, soon to be 27. It might be like 28 or 29 by the end of 2025, which gives us 4 years to get the other 11 states on board. So, I think, 21, 20, right now it's 26. So we have 24 more states to go. So we have some work to do, but I really do think that has been a calling for me because it requires me to be able to talk to parents and students, be able to talk to teachers, be able to talk to administrators, superintendents. I need to be able to talk to senators, representatives, governors, treasurers. I need to be able to talk to Black people, white people, people from all walks of life. I need to be able to talk to Democrats, Republicans. I have to constantly be able to be this chameleon that can work with so many different stakeholders. And I do think that's a unique talent of mine, having been a teacher, having the background that I have, having the passion that I have. I feel that there's so many people that could try to do this job and would not be able to do it. And because I feel it's a unique skill set that I have, I do think that would hopefully be my legacy that I leave, is it's changing financial education for the face of America.
That is powerful. That is powerful. I love it. I love that. Yaneli, me and you, we could talk pretty much all night. And this was a powerful interview. I want to say thank you because I look up to certain individuals with different areas of my life. And honestly, I'll be real with you. I love the fact that you get paid to speak all over the world in places like Zavo, Switzerland. You get paid to speak all over the world in places like Oakland and California, in Texas, in Paris, and stuff like in Spain. That's what I want to ultimately do with my career at some point in my life. I look up to the fact that you basically built your YouTube channel from scratch. You kind of came from the bottom, you kind of came from the mud, just like I to some extent did. You more or less are proud. You're proud of your ethnicity. You're proud of your culture, and you're just doing a phenomenal and a good thing. And I love how you talked about it takes a teacher. It takes it takes an entire village to build your community. I could not do financial education if it were not for my wife. So thank you, Reeves, for that. And I see a lot where you are is kind of where I'm ultimately trying to take financiation and take it to a greater height. So thank you,
Yeah,
Yaneli, for this.
and
I
you will,
appreciate it.
and you will, and you're already on your way. So I really respect what you're doing, and I love your hustle and your grind. So thank you for having me on your show, and thanks for being on the NGPF podcast. And I'm sure we'll be partnering and keeping in touch and working together more. So thank
Oh,
you.
for sure, definitely. We definitely got to do it. All right, with that, everybody, it is a wrap. You can book a one-on-one session with me at any point, everybody. Link is below. We are not giving you financial advice on the channel. Please make your own responsible decisions based on the thorough independent research that you do for yourself. You can check out my website at www.therealfinancialpatient.com. My Instagram is _financialpatient. My Spotify is Financial Patient, and my TikTok page is Financial Patient as well. Additionally, my Facebook page is Financial Patient. You can check out my financial blog, and if you're interested, this is my book. You can definitely go ahead and purchase it on Amazon. And by all means, Yaneli, please, where can everybody find you? Where can they reach out to you at?
Yeah, y'all can find me on social media, MissBeHelpful, MissBe helpful. And if you want to purchase the book, Mind Your Money, you can just go to mindyourmoneybook.com.
Got you, got you. I've read the book, by the way, everybody. It is phenomenal. You actually motivated me. I'm gonna be putting out a financial book as well.
Yeah.
And I never thought about weaving my own crazy, wild stories of seeing some of the ish I saw and getting recruited to join gangs. I'm gonna put all that stuff in this book about how, from an entrepreneur perspective, it kind of pushed me to become an engineer and to get my MBA and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Yaneli. It gave me. I'm gonna put some ethnic stuff up in there.
Yeah, for sure. Because honestly, it's a story that's gonna call to people who are living through that same experience to go,
exactly.
Oh, like, okay, so if he could do that coming from that background and I'm there now, that really helps them to visualize a path for themselves that they probably don't believe they even can get on that path right now. So yeah, it's definitely life-changing. I think I encourage you to do it. And it's also cathartic. It was a very therapeutic process for me to go back through and remember things and jot them down and decide what to include. So I think you'll also enjoy the process, not only that you're giving back to others, but you're giving to yourself as well.
Like, I know you write my scholarship book. It took me back to some of the dumb stuff I was doing in high school and why I actually had the time to write the book and all kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it was dope. It was dope. Yaneli, thank you. Let's definitely, let's do this again. I would love to come back on the NGPF. If you ever want to come back on Financipation, I got a couple collabs I want to do with other podcasts as well. I will definitely reach out to you about that. Okay. And tell your boyfriend I said what's up. And thank you, Yaneli. I appreciate that.
Will do. Thank you, Chris. Talk to you soon.